Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Adelina and I make videos about living in this tiny house on wheels, eating yummy plant-based food, and living a more intentional life. It's Wednesday, so it's recipe day. I'm actually cooking this on Tuesday because my youngest Jamie is coming over and I'm going to make enchiladas and Mexican rice, and I'm making my Mexican rice from scratch in the Instant Pot. I've gotten a lot of requests lately for more recipes that use the Instant Pot, so this is a really simple one. There's just a couple little tricks that you need to know, but it's really quick, really simple, really delicious, and so I'm going to share that with you today. So let's get started. Here's what we're going to need for our Mexican rice. We're going to need our Instant Pot, obviously, because this is an Instant Pot recipe. Some long grain rice. I've got the basmati, so that's what I'm going to use. A can of fire roasted tomatoes, or you can sometimes find like Mexican style, spicy style, that would work as well. Some vegetable broth, extra virgin olive oil, some cumin, some chili powder, and some smoked paprika. Along with that, I've got one sorry looking onion that needs to get used up, and 2 or 3 large cloves of garlic. Mine are small, so I'm going to use 5 small ones. That's all we're going to need, so let's get making. So I'm going to put the full recipe down below in the show notes, but the first thing we're going to do is get our 2 cups of long grain rice and rinse it really well and drain it really well. So I've just got that sitting there just to drain. And then the next thing we're going to do is mince up our garlic. I hate peeling garlic cloves, so I did this off camera so you didn't have to be witness to me being frustrated and swearing. And we're just going to chop up our onion right now. Now that that's done, I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil into my Instant Pot, and I'm going to hit the saute feature, the saute button, and we're just going to saute. Now, the saute feature on the Instant Pot does get pretty hot, so I always keep a little water on hand to add to it so that it doesn't burn. But I'm going to press the saute button on, and I'm going to add a tablespoon or 2 of I'm using olive oil in there. So I've got the oil in there, and I'm going to let that warm up, and then we're going to add the onions and let them sweat down a little bit before we add our spices and our other ingredients. Won't take long for the oil to start warming up. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is open my can of fire roasted tomatoes. Have I mentioned this can opener before? I saw this on some YouTube channel where they were reviewing Amazon products that you needed to have. And normally I don't pay much attention to those, but I have always struggled with getting a can opener that actually worked, that you weren't just sort of basically creating metal shavings. This one is fantastic. I'll try and remember to put the link down below, but it's incredible. It opens every can so well. It never slips. It's awesome. There's even a little magnet on the top if you drop your lid in there and you can pull it out. So I highly recommend that. We're not going to put the tomatoes in yet. I have also got my 2.5 cups of veggie broth ready to go. But the first thing we're going to do is just saute our onions until they get a little bit softened. Okay, so my onions have sweated down a bit. You don't need them to really cook a lot, but you want to sweat them down a bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my spices. So I want 1 teaspoon of chili powder, And obviously you can adjust these seasonings to your liking. 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika. A half a teaspoon of cumin. Now I'm going to give that a quick stir, being careful not to let it burn to the bottom, but just to toast the spices just a little bit before we're going to put the veggie broth in. Okay, so now I'm going to add the 2.5 cups of veggie broth. I'm going to take it off of saute, so turn it off and give it a good stir. So now once you've given it a good stir, making sure that there's nothing stuck to the bottom, because you really don't want this to give you the burn error message, I'm going to add in the rice. I can taste this right now to see if it needs any salt. But the broth has salt in it. No, it definitely needs some salt. And I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to add some pepper. Now you can adjust your seasonings. You can add more or less of whatever you want based on your tastes. I think that's good, but you know what? I think I'm going to add a little bit more chili powder. I don't know why, but today I feel like adding more. So another 1/4 teaspoon. And maybe even a little bit more cumin. So just play around with the seasonings to your taste. And I'm going to add the garlic as well at this time. And let's give that a really good stir. So here's the trick, and this is really important, because what happens with these Instant Pots is sometimes you'll get an error message that says burn because something has stuck to the bottom, and you really don't want that to happen, and you want the rice to cook. So what I want you to do, yum. We're going to add the tomatoes in here, but we are not going to stir this. So I'm just going to put these in here, and they'll basically sit on top of the rice, but we're not going to stir them in. And now we're going to put the lid on. Okay, make sure that this is on sealing, not venting. And I'm going to turn it manual for 4 minutes. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's what you want. So we're going to let this cook. It will take some time to come up to pressure, and then it will seal. It will count down for the 4 minutes. And then once it beeps that it's done the 4 minutes, you want to give it 5 minutes. Just turn it off and give it 5 minutes of natural pressure release. After the 5, set your timer. After the 5, then you'll want to manually release the rest of the pressure. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. I'll put it in the description down below. So I will see you back here when this is done. All right, so I have cooked it for the 4 minutes, and then I set my timer for 5 minutes to let it naturally release. And now we're going to release the rest of the steam in here. There is a lot, so I've just moved it over underneath my hood fan. I'm going to turn the fan on, and I'm going to release the rest of the pressure and steam. We're going to fast forward past this part. All right, so the little pressure button has popped down. We're going to open it now. It took me ages before I realized that the lid actually can stand right there. Who knew? Well, not me. So I'm actually gonna move this. You can see that it is cooked and the tomatoes have stayed on top. So I'm just gonna stir it up. But that's about it. That's all there is to making Mexican rice. Now it's still pretty steamy and warm, but I'm just gonna scoop a little bit here. I have my mixture for my fajitas in here ready to be wrapped. I'll link that recipe down below. It's where I made the fajitas that Matt from Van Life Plus makes, but I made them vegan and they were delicious. So they're ready to get rolled. And I'll just scoop some out so you can see how good this looks. Hot. Yeah, really good. Now, it would probably use a little bit more salt, but I always figure I'd rather err on the side of less salt. You can always add more when you're serving it yourself. That's really good. The fire roasted tomatoes add a lot to it. I think you could play around with the flavors on this, the spices that you use. You could probably take more chili powder. It's basically whatever you liked in your Mexican rice is what you can put in here. But the trick is to make sure that you put the tomatoes on top, not stir them in, because you will get most likely a burn error message. If you were going to add things like peas or something to this, again, I would lay them on top of the rice. Once you've put the rice in there, you have the broth, you put the rice in there, then you add your tomatoes just on top, your whatever vegetables you want to put, like peas or whatever, on top, and then seal it. Don't stir it in until it's done. Then you stir it in, because otherwise the Instant Pot for some reason tends to give a burn error message. So I hope you guys try this. I hope you like it. I hope you've tried the enchilada recipe that I have on the channel. Again, I didn't create that recipe. Matt from Van Life Plus did, but when I saw it, it looked so good, and I knew I had to try to make it vegan, and it is as delicious, I would imagine, vegan as it is non-vegan. So I hope you try it. I hope you guys are doing well. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, eat good food. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Say hi. Yes, you want some Mexican rice too? No, not at all.